My name is Professor Mchatiwugwa Liberty Howe in the School of Language Education, at the Mafikeng campus. I teach English, both language and literature, to all the year groups. My presentation is on challenges of the teaching profession as you register for 2021 and embark on a 4-year journey to certification and induction into the teaching profession. I want to begin by making reference to a text that I find critically important in your teaching journey. It is a book called Teaching Other People's Children by Lisa Delpit, written in 2006. And I think the book makes you understand that your impact on one's life in the classroom makes an indelible mark. You get into the classroom carrying a new word, innoversity, by which I mean innovation plus diversity, in as much as it could also be taken to mean innovation within the university. So university allows you to get ready to teach other people's children, remembering that in making the choice to teach, you make a commitment to teach other people's children. Indeed, to teach is to touch a life forever. Are you committed to your choices then? Perhaps we could make a reference to Ford in a book by Hawke written in 2014, where he says that there is no longer one South Africa, but several, each one a product of various pasts and presents, each of which is tangled up in the process of trying to forge an identity somewhere between the old and the new. You're going to be teaching in diverse classrooms where you will find mixed home languages together with second languages. You're going to be teaching mixed ability classes. And in all that, what you need to demonstrate is professionalism. You're also going to be teaching in mixed home language and second language classrooms that are task-based and where there is bound to be a lot of interaction research. Your task is to extend students' repertoires, students' abilities, what they bring into the classroom, and you have got to extend it beyond the present capacity. There are certain perceptions, of course, that you will carry into the home language, second language, interactive classroom. And you're going to be bogged down by a lot of chores, basic mundane tasks that range from different perspectives of the classrooms, different views that the learners bring, different correct versions of what the students understand. And you will have to mark their work. You will have to give feedback. You are going to be compelled to cover the curriculum in its totality. So, in many ways, there are many and myriad changes that you have got to enact in such classrooms. So, how do you enact that innoversity inside your classroom? Taking into cognizance that classrooms across South Africa have become increasingly diverse. Determining how you connect in significant and important ways across lines of difference may be the greatest challenge facing you as teachers in 2024. Teachers in the 21st century South African schools must meet this challenge and find ways to forge meaningful relationships with students who come from different worlds, different hoods, if you want, while also helping these students develop academic skills and the skills needed to become critical citizens in a multicultural democracy. So you want to get into that classroom and define a common language, demonstrating what I call exemplarity. You become an exemplar of a fundi in your own discipline, in manner, disposition, and everything else. You want to communicate proficiently and regularly with your students and your peers. You want to teach each student and treat each student and colleague as a potential major contributor to the success of the teaching learning process. I must emphasize, therefore, that empathy in the classroom is more preferred rather than sympathy. You want to motivate your class to become a community of practice, namely a group of people who share concern and passion for what they do in the specific discipline that you teach, and the competency and mastery and confidence that you display must rub on to other people's children. There's going to be a huge challenge with technology and innovation and the Internet of Things as we understand now. So one of the epistemic challenges you're going to encounter in your classrooms is related to the question, how do we know what we claim to know? There is bound to be, as you will recognize in your first year and second year and third year, till you get to the end, a lot of plagiarism, where information and answers have already been provided, ready-made, they have been uploaded onto the internet, and all the student does is cut, copy, paste. In many ways, as a teacher, your role should also be underpinned by the following embedded values. You must be passionate about your profession. You must be an empowering individual. You must generate curiosity amongst your learners to explore new ways of knowing, new ways of being, and new ways of becoming. So, together with being innovative, you need to be creative. You need to be open to students' views, and your role becomes that of a mediator in the teaching learning process. So what other aspects would you need to consider during the creative teaching process? Of course, you need the background to the school, to the learners, and their circumstances. I mean, it looks simple to state that you need to know your learners by name, how old they are. How do your learners individually and collectively get to go to school? What type of school are you teaching in? Where is it located? what resources are available in the schools, what are the socio-economic circumstances of the learner. Should you not know this in detail, you risk making your learners invisible. Your task as a teacher is to fight against this invisibility and raise your children to that visibility academically, intellectually, socially, morally, the list goes on. I have a favorite tune from John Lennon called Lean on Me. And perhaps at some point, after listening to this delivery, you might have time to play it on YouTube. But some of the basic lyrics in there say, sometime in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there is always tomorrow. So, yeah, lean on me when you're not strong. You're going to have to be a researcher continuously to keep ahead and abreast of research in your discipline, be it mathematics, geography, life sciences, English. Leaning on someone does not, however, mean they carry your full weight. As I said earlier on, and I add an 11th commandment to the 10 in the Old Testament, thou shalt not plagiarize, thou shalt not copy and paste. You need, as a teacher, to be an agent with voice. Facebook and WhatsApp are going to be huge enablers in your classrooms, as well as detractors. And for the female teachers in this session, with students proposing on day one. So how do you discipline and punish them in a regime, a democratic regime for that matter, that says, thou shalt not wield the stick, thou shalt not scream at the learner, and yours is to negotiate and carve a way forward. In the end, it all comes down to other people's children and their values. We need to shape a future that works for all of us by putting people and the learners in this regard first and empowering them. In its most pessimistic, dehumanized form, the fourth industrial revolution under which you will be teaching may indeed have the potential to robotize humanity, to turn us into robots, and thus to deprive us of our heart and soul. But as a complement to the best parts of human nature, creativity, empathy, stewardship, it can also lift humanity and the South African learners into a new collective and moral consciousness based on a shared sense of destiny. To succeed, students need to have numeracy and literacy skills as well as an understanding of how the world operates. And you as a teacher should be mediating the development of these skills. Students studying applied sciences need to understand the political and social natures of the world. Students who study humanities need to have at least a basic understanding of artificial intelligence. Our students need to be problem solvers, adaptable, and be able to express themselves in both written and the spoken word. and they need to make moral choices. Students shall ask questions incessantly to clarify their misconceptions. As a teacher, you must be adept at interrogating these, pushing your students towards new horizons of knowing how to resolve these problems. The skills and competencies necessary to cope in the 21st century are, of course, very different from what they were in the previous century because of technological changes and availability of information. This implies, interestingly, that half of what we learn in a 4-year degree program will be outdated by the time that we graduate. In such an educational landscape, we need to keep up with the changes and the demands to equip learners with the necessary skills. I cite two researchers, Holmes and Gardner, who in 2006 identified the following requirements for teaching and learning in these changing and challenging times. First, learners must view themselves as producers and not just as consumers of information. Learning must be a process of constructing knowledge, and this construction must be a collective activity. Thirdly, learners must be trained in the various technologies that they are using, and particularly the abilities needed to negotiate and communicate and present new knowledges and new information to their peers. This entails the final point, that there need to be authentic coursework that must be included in all this. Finally, let us close this presentation on the challenges of the teaching profession with Alette Ingram in 2000 advising that effective literacy instruction builds upon the cultural and linguistic backgrounds, ways of making meaning, and prior knowledge that all children bring to the classroom. Such instruction also acknowledges the important role of culture in language and literacy learning. Understanding and respecting the array of different cultures and languages represented in our classrooms helps us as teachers to adopt strategies for teaching literacy and mathemacy that will encourage and support student achievement. I want to close this talk by advising that teachers who do become experts at working in a multicultural, multilingual setting, as in South Africa, have no choice but to become social activists. You and the rest of the teaching fraternity serve as promoters and validators of culture. You, as a teacher within the teaching fraternity, empower individuals to take pride in their cultural roots and heritage. Thank you.